hot zone evacuation, or mass treatment behind the lines. With patch 4.3.1, the RSI Apollo comes in two variants, Medivac and Triage. In this guide, you get a crystal clear comparison, the smartest bed setups with capacities and MedGel consumption, so you know exactly which variant fits your playstyle, or whether a cheaper alternative makes more sense. Oxygen on, visor down. Let's go. First, our recommendations for the Apollo variants. If you regularly rescue under fire, pick the Medivac with the bed setup T1 plus T2. You treat 3 people at the same time, 1 critical case on the T1 and 2 major cases on the 2 T2 beds, and all 3 slots can be set as respawn. MedGel usage always follows the highest injury tier that is healed in that session. If T1 is involved, it bills 20 MedGel. If T2 is involved, 10. If only T3 is involved, 5. Multiple wounds are handled in one go, and you pay once for the highest tier, not for every single injury. For mission planning, that means maximum rescue depth in hot zones, 3 parallel treatments, full respawn function as long as you stay within the distance window of the bed tier you rely on. If you mainly want to treat many citizens efficiently in safe areas, choose the Triage with the bed setup T2 plus T3. You treat 5 people simultaneously, 2 major cases on T2 and 3 minor cases on T3. And all 5 slots can also be set as a respawn with a shorter distance window than T1. The MedGel rule stays identical. You heal what is present, and you pay once for the highest tier of that round. The same gel spend turns into more throughput because this setup offers more beds, and minor cases run cheaply alongside the majors. For quick orientation, remember the 3 ship bed respawn distances: T3 up to 50 kilometers, T2 up to 8,000 kilometers, T1 up to 750 million kilometers. If the death location is outside that range or the bed is destroyed or empty, you will not respawn on board, but at your stored home location. So set your imprint where it matches the mission profile and check the tank levels before takeoff. Of course, you can adapt both Triage and Medivac with module configurations. We will look at that in a moment. First, the true differences between the two. Now the technical data of the Apollo variants. The Medivac is ahead, 121,700 hull hit points versus 118,700 on the Triage. In the body segment, it is 33,000 versus 30,000. Both carry 4 size 2 shields with around 4,130 capacity each. On recharge, the Medivac has the advantage, full in about 26.9 seconds, the Triage in about 29.6 seconds. Pro Medivac means more buffer and faster back to green after hits. Pro Triage means slightly less padding, but only a small disadvantage on recharge time. On firepower, the Medivac also dominates. 16 size 2 missiles versus 8 on the Triage make the difference in dash-in, dash-out operations. In the remote turret, the Medivac runs GT-220 Gatlings, ballistic, punchy, but ammo-bound. The Triage uses bearing M5A, laser, high sustained DPS, no ammo management. Pro Medivac is burst, alpha, pressure, and clear deterrence. Contra Medivac is reloads and ammo logistics. Pro Triage is reliable sustained fire with no reload windows. Contra Triage is less burst and only half the missile load. Mobility advantages are situational. In nav, the Triage leads with 1,025 meters per second. The Medivac sits at 1,000 meters per second. In SCM, the Medivac leads with 175 meters per second versus 170 on the Triage. In the rates, the Medivac pitches more nimbly at 27 degrees per second, while the Triage yaws more steadily at 24 degrees per second. Translated, Medivac dives and pulls faster on the vertical. Triage steers more precisely through tight approaches. The downsides mirror each other. Medivac yaws heavier. Triage pitches less spontaneously. Everyday figures are almost equal. Both Apollos measure roughly 73 by 54 by 14 meters and offer 32 SCU cargo. This is split across 2 A16 grids for small freight. On quantum fuel, the Medivac holds a slight edge at about 4.5 versus 4.35 on the Triage. On claim and expedite, the Triage returns a few seconds faster, the Medivac a few seconds slower. No deal breakers. Components are largely identical and complete the picture. Avionics with a large radar and 2 medium computers. Systems with 2 large coolers, 2 medium shield generators and a large power plant. Propulsion with a medium quantum drive, 2 medium fuel tanks, 2 medium fuel intakes, a medium jump module and a medium quantum fuel tank. Thruster layout is the same count on both. Differences appear where you already felt them. The remote turret on the Medivac is ballistic GT220 Gatlings. On the Triage, it is M5A laser. Missile racks carry 16 times S2 on Medivac and 8 times S2 on Triage. Pilot weapons are identical, 2 times CF447 laser repeaters, size 4. The interior welcomes you without detours. You board via the rear ramp or the elevator and immediately stand in the cargo bay with 2 A16 grids, a total of 32 SCU. The space is uncluttered. Tie-downs and aisle width are set so that crates, medical supplies, and ground tools find their place without playing Tetris, and you still have room to maneuver. The lift can take you to the cockpit and then into the medical section. Left and right sit the 2 module bays, fitted with T3, T2, or T1 beds, depending on the mission. Each side brings full infrastructure. Patient storage for quick access, a med fridge for consumables, monitors at eye level. Paths are short, doorways are wide. Doors react quickly. You move stretchers without hassle and teams can cross without breaking the flow. Lighting stays clinical but not harsh. You see what you need and nobody trips over shadows. Along the bulkhead is the armory. 2 weapon lockers for long guns and side-ons, plus 2 suit lockers. It is grab and go right next to the medical workspace without running across the ship. Up front, the flight section connects. The cockpit gives clear sightlines. The path to the remote turret terminal is short. Service panels give access to the component bays. Power plant, coolers, shield generators, and the quantum drive sit behind tidy covers, reachable without tearing down the station. That is how the Medivac feels inside. A compact clinic with clear traffic flow, short reach, and a layout that keeps nerves calm in hectic situations. You also have 2 crew bunks, a small multifunction bathroom, a mini galley, and seats for pilot and co-pilot. The med modules and the loadouts are the heart of the Apollo, so let's nail this precisely. Both variants have 2 slots, left and right. You fit them with T3, T2, or T1, and every bed can be used for respawn as long as the def location is within the tier's distance. T3 up to 50 kilometers, T2 up to 8,000 kilometers, T1 up to 750 million kilometers, which is practically system-wide. For each treatment, the bed bills exactly once for the highest injury tier of that patient. T3 costs 5 MedGel, T2 costs 10, T1 costs 20. If a patient carries multiple wounds, you pay only for the highest tier, not for each wound. This lets you read any setup instantly. How many cases run in parallel, how far each bed's lifeline reaches, and what MedGel load per patient to expect. Medivac with T1 plus T2 remains the spearhead for hot zones. You treat 3 people simultaneously, 1 critical on T1 and 2 major on T2, and all 3 slots support respawn. A T1 patient costs 20 MedGel, a T2 patient 10, a T3 patient 5, each once per complete treatment. The appeal of this combo is the long leash from the T1 bed that can pull you back system-wide if needed, while the T2 slots reliably close major injuries. This is where the Medivac plays its protection card with 16 S2 missiles, faster shield recharge, and the GT220 turret. In, grab, out, without turning the medbay into a bottleneck. Triage with T2 plus T3 is the efficiency queen for events and hubs. You treat 5 people in parallel, 2 majors on T2 and 3 minors on T3, and all 5 slots support respawn as long as distances fit. Per patient, you pay once for the tier of the actual healing, meaning 10 MedGel for a T2 case and 5 for a T3 case. In practice, it feels like a rolling conveyor. The T3 line stabilizes and clears minor wounds without clogging the med flow. The T2 slots flatten major damage, and your gel stock drains noticeably slower. Triage helps with a NAV lead and the M5A laser turret without needing ammunition. If mass throughput truly matters, the Triage with T3 plus T3 delivers the calmest line. 6 simultaneous treatments, each bed respawn capable within 50 kilometers, and low cost per head because T3 bills only 5 MedGel per full heal. One complete round of 6 costs 30 MedGel, and you keep a steady rhythm. Perfect when you work through many small injuries on the spot and want respawns to stay local. For long escorts and convoys, the Medivac with T2 plus T2 feels surprisingly balanced. 4 parallel major treatments, 4 respawn lifelines at 8,000 kilometers, predictable cost per patient, and the platform itself stays robust thanks to hull padding, missiles, and faster shield recharge when the group is under pressure. It is the calm choice for crews that travel for hours and need a reliable medical backline. At the very top sits T1 plus T1. 2 beds, both with system-wide reach, maximum rescue depth for critical situations. Every T1 case costs 20 MedGel. It is the most expensive round in the game, but if you plan to pull people with critical injuries back under fire, nothing is more stable. You need clear escort though, otherwise you burn premium gel for half measures. Picture your mission and pick what truly carries. For hot zones with enemy contact, Medivac with T1 plus T2 is the first choice. You run 1 critical on T1 and 2 major on T2 in parallel. Counting only full heals in 1 round, you spend 20 MedGel for the T1 case and 10 each for the 2 T2 cases. That is 40 MedGel for 3 citizens. All 3 slots are respawn capable, and thanks to T1, the leash reaches system-wide. In practice, set your imprint on the ship, hold distance in nav, dash in briefly in SCM, pick up, fall back on missiles and the faster shield recharge, treat in cover, and get ready for the next wave. For events and big community nights, the Triage with T2 plus T3 is the throughput champion. All 5 slots are respawn capable as long as distances fit. With no ammo constraints and a noticeable lead in NAV, the Triage stays calm, predictable, and budget-friendly in your cycles. Ideal for Onyx runs, expo days, or community events where people arrive in waves. For solo medics or very small crews, a pragmatic middle path can pay off. Medivac with T2 plus T3 brings 4 beds, 3 of them cheap, 1 major. On the Triage, T1 plus T3 works if you need a long leash but want most cases to stay cheap. Then you spend about 25 MedGel for 3 patients and gain the T1 range as a safety rope. But there are many alternatives to the Apollo series. Let's place the cheap and the large options so you know when the Apollo truly makes sense. The C8R Pisces is the cheapest entry. On board sits a single T3 bed. Healing costs 5 MedGel per full treatment. Respawn is possible with a range of 50 kilometers. Perfect as a shuttle medic to stabilize on site, close minor wounds, and send people back just behind the front. Limits show on major injuries and longer distances. When the action moves, 50 kilometers is the end. The Cutlass Red has 2 T3 beds and thus double beds in the cheap segment. Each full T3 heal costs 5 MedGel. Both slots are respawn capable at 50 kilometers. As an ambulance transporter, it is gold. What it lacks is depth for major or critical cases, precisely where the Apollo steps in with T2 and T1. The Terrapin medic in a T2 configuration is the armored tank among the smaller ships. 1 T2 bed means full major healing for 10 MedGel and respawn with an 8,000 kilometer range. You lose speed but gain range and armor. For mass operation it lacks beds, for T1 peaks it lacks ultimate depth. The Carrack brings an integrated medical section with 1 T2 bed. That is a reliable respawn anchor over 8,000 kilometers, and it closes major wounds cleanly for 10 MedGel. As an expedition backbone, it works excellently as long as you do not expect many parallel cases. Size and running costs are high, medical throughput stays limited. The 890 jump plays in the same medical league. For planned high society events that is enough. For shifting hotspots it lacks tactical flexibility. The Polaris is a combat ship with a clinic section. Multiple T2 beds can form a real respawn hub and major care in a battle group. Strong in perspective, today it remains future talk.
The Endeavour Hope is the hospital card of the verse.
T1 capacity means full critical healing for 20 MedGel and respawn with a reach of 750 million kilometers. That is the system-wide lifeline and the deepest level of care, with the highest price and logistics footprint. The Apollo positions itself right between these. Two freely configurable modules make it the only modular two-slot platform in the mid-range. With T2 and T3, it scales throughput cheaper than any single T2 option. With T1 and T2, it pulls critical patients back reliably without needing a hope. Now prices. Apollo Triage was $250 USD at concept. Apollo Medivac was $275 USD. At Flight Ready, industry practice is a markup of about 15 to 20%. Translated to clear numbers, plan around $290 USD for Triage and about $330 to $340 USD for Medivac. This continues the roll logic in price. Medivac costs more but delivers stronger deterrence with double the missile load, faster shield recharge, and tougher presence in hot zones. Triage stays the cheaper choice for high throughput in safer areas, especially with a T2 plus T3 setup. If your budget is tight, prioritize Triage and invest the savings into MedGel stock and mission logistics. If you plan frontline operations and need the longer respawn leash plus pressure tools, take the Medivac and accept the premium as an insurance policy. The key is not to look at price in isolation, but to weigh it against your use case. How often do you truly need T1 depth? How often do you rescue under fire? How much does higher robustness raise your success rate? But wait, what about drones? Concepts then, reality now. In the original concept, the Apollo showcased two MediLift drones, floating stretchers with tractor assist, meant for safe recoveries right at the hotspot. Today, the drone bay exists, but the drone gameplay itself is not active yet. For your purchase decision, that means plan the Apollo as if drones arrive later and value the ship by hull, shields, missile load, turret profile, and bed combinations. In hot zones, you replace the missing drones by setting the pickup point defensively, sending the Medivac into the hail only briefly in SCM, stabilizing patients with ground tools, and moving them straight into the bed pipeline. In safe areas, you organize with the Triage via shuttles and EVA, use the T3 line as a buffer, and keep T2 free for the real heavy cases. Once drones arrive, the path between Danger Edge and the medbay will shrink, but the core logic of your setups remains the same. Range and number of beds decide outcomes, not magic. Do the math for your use case, gel budget, distance windows, and the number of parallel cases. Then your Apollo choice becomes a system decision, not a gut feeling. Tell me in the comments which use case describes you and which bed loadout you pick, Team Medivac or Team Triage. If this guide helped, consider subscribing and share the video with your flight crew. The more real examples we collect, the sharper the perfect Apollo matrix becomes for the community. Thanks for watching, and see you in the daily Twitch streams or out in the verse.